Hello and welcome to Gardening Australia. Spring is in full swing and so are we. I'm in the Yarra Valley at a thriving community hub, connecting people to their food and the environment. I'll be back to show you around later, but first, here's what else we've been cooking up.
I'm finding out about Tasmania's native orchids, which are some of the most beautiful and threatened of plants. There are also some great tips about photographing them safely and responsibly.
I'm going to show you how to grow your own curry spices. They're guaranteed to make your taste buds sing.
And we meet a bachelor and gubby-gubby man strengthening the ties between plants and culture. To make a truly great garden, you need a few key ingredients: time, patience, vision, and a love of plants. Jane's down in Werribee with someone who's put all these things together to get a perfect result. This is serious gardening inspo.
What about this for a stunning avenue, an entrance to a beautiful garden? These are golden elms, and they're like a cathedral that just covers the whole driveway. It's a perfect entrance to Cloverdale, a really stunning garden. I'm in Werribee in Melbourne's outer west, where Connie Menegazzo has spent 40 years creating this truly remarkable garden. That, Connie, is a quite remarkable view of your beautiful elm trees. How old are they?
Well, we planted them in 1983.
Wow. And they're beautifully spaced, just beautiful.
Yes, they've all grown into each other now, so it's just a massive green. And it's just in spring when you get that beautiful, vibrant colour, and you know spring's come, and it's gorgeous. And coming home, it just forms this, like a cave, I suppose. You come in off the highway and you just go down the drive and you're in this special place. And you sort of feel like it's a bit of an embrace.
And why did you choose golden elms?
Well, my husband did, actually. He wanted an avenue of elms coming up to the house, which at the time everyone was sort of thinking, how are you going to grow elms on the Irrimu Plains with the hot winds? But anyway, they survived and they're doing well now.
More than survived, they're absolutely thriving.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. The dreamy driveway wends its way up to the farmhouse alongside the enticingly named Lollipop Creek. Up near the house, there's a gorgeous meandering garden full of year-round colour. This is a very pretty little spot.
Yes, I like it.
This bank of roses is rather nice, isn't it?
Yes, it's come together really well.
What is the rose?
Peach Profusion, it's called.
Blimey, it lives up to its name, doesn't it?
It does, yes. There's lots of blooms and looks very pretty.
And does it repeat flower?
Yes, I get 3 flowerings during the season, so I love it.
Oh, that's just gorgeous. And then I like how you've got the society garlic creeping out onto the edge.
It's a pretty contrast. I like the colours together.
And was this area, the rose garden, was it always meant to be a rose garden?
No, it was meant to be a tennis court originally, but that never happened. And so I took advantage of that opportunity and decided to extend the garden. It's a nice open sunny spot because there's trees in a lot of the rest of the garden which create a lot of shade, so this is a good spot to grow roses.
Oh, let's have a look at some more then. Good. We're in the heart of your rose garden. Why do you love them so much?
Well, I think I grew up with them in the garden. My grandfather used to plant lots of roses, so I just always had them around, and they're just so beautiful.
Well, look at this red.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful?
It's pillar box. It sort of hits you in the eye.
It does, and with the contrast of the dark green leaf, it's
gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
And do you have any favourite colours?
I love reds and pinks. I love those sort of hot colours together. And quite often, too, I'll buy a rose because of the perfume, so I like to have a bit of everything.
And I love this little area where you've got the red. Well, it's a funny colour, isn't it, that one?
Yes, it's sort
really
of a chocolatey red colour.
looks lovely. It looks really lovely.
It's a rambling type of garden, a bit like a park, I suppose. As the mood takes me, I sort of thought, oh, I'll do this here or I'll do that there, and it's just evolved over the years and just something different around every corner.
When Connie and her husband Julian arrived here to farm the land in the early 1980s, there was nothing but paddocks and several giant river red gums. The 3.5 hectare garden is surrounded by 150 hectares of farming land. Connie's family rotates cereal crops, including wheat and barley and canola, on the volcanic soil of the Werribee Plains.
We're part of the Irimu Plains. The farm is on the Geelong side of Werribee. It's fairly flat ground, lots of wind, not a great rainfall because we're in the shadow of the You Yangs, so it's windy and dry. Well, Jane, this is where Lollipop Creek enters our dam, which is the lifeblood of my garden, because if I didn't have this water, I would not be able to create the garden that we have.
And it just is perfect for you, your garden and the birds. It really is a haven, isn't
Yes,
it?
yeah, it
and
is.
Is that anything to do with you, all that planting over there?
Yes, we planted that. Once we extended the dam, we planted roughly 4,000 trees on the other side of the dam. They're all natives, and that's provided a windbreak and a haven for the birds and for the garden. It sort of encircles the garden and protects it.
Why did you become a gardener? Where did you get the inspiration from?
I think I just grew up in a beautiful garden. I lived on a farm and I just always loved gardening. Even as a child, I had my own little patch and I'd rather be outside than inside.
Yes, you know. I agree entirely. And is there something to see every season?
Oh, there is. And that's what I love about this garden. It changes all the time. It's not static. There's always something to look forward to. And spring is just so beautiful. In the winter, it looks completely different. Everything's cut back. But come spring, it all comes back to life like magic.
You've got some good sculptures around.
We've got a lot of farm rust, I call it. Bits and pieces that we've collected over the time in the farm. And there are some augers there just behind us. And there are some rollers in another part of the garden. It's just recycling, but you can turn something that's a bit of rust into something beautiful, put it in amongst some plants and it looks great.
Your rose arbour is festooned with flowers. Wow, this is a beauty.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? This is Pinky, which looks pretty special this time of year.
One of your favourites?
It is, yes. When it's all out in flower, it just looks spectacular.
And I believe you've got some recycling happening.
We have. The top structure is an old car wash that was down at our shed gathering dust, so we repurposed it and we've created this.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is good. Better than it ending up in landfill, so much better purpose.
How long would you spend in the garden per week?
Depending the season, you know, sometimes there's a lot of work to be done in the garden. Other times you can just enjoy it a bit more and have a walk around and pull out the odd weed here and there. So it can be 1 or 2 hours a day, up to 6 or 8 hours a day. I like sometimes if a little area's got to be redone, I think, oh, well, what can I do here? And it's usually about colour and something that will survive easily, doesn't need too much care. But that's the fun part of it, planning something and then watching it grow and hoping it turns out the way you think it's going to turn out.
Do you get disappointments?
Oh, of course, yeah, there's plant things and they just don't grow. And that happens all the time. And I don't linger on the disappointment. I just move on and plant something that has worked before. I've got lots of bits and pieces in the garden that have been cuttings from friends. So that's really nice. So when you walk around the garden, you know you've got this one from, you know, this person. And it's almost as if they live on in a way. So I think that's gardeners do that. We share things. It's a nice way of communicating with people. Once my mum passed away, she had a persimmon tree in her back garden, and so we planted one here that I can see outside my kitchen, so it's always a reminder of her. So that's lovely. The garden gives me a great deal of pleasure. It's a lovely place to live and it was a great place for my children to grow up in. It's been wonderful to create this green place out of a bare paddock. So I think it's adding something to the environment So, yeah, it's a pretty special place.
Is there a banana that's pink? As a matter of fact, there is. This is one of them, Musa velutina. It is endemic to parts of India, particularly around the Himalayas. So it is ideal for cool climate gardens looking for that little bit of a tropical feel. As a wild banana, it really is an interesting fruit because it is still full of seeds. So not a lot of flesh, however. But they are edible. If you can find your way around those seeds, really quite tasty. The Musa velutina, the pink banana.
Can I grow a tree indoors? Yes, you can. I'd recommend slow-growing trees such as the thuya or juniper bushes. Find a bright spot indoors and you won't be disappointed. Slow-growing trees don't like too much watering, so always check the soil before watering again. If needed, you can gently prune the green foliage and side branches, but be careful not to cut the top off. This is known as the central leader. Unlike flowering trees, the central leader will never grow back, and you'll be left with a short and wide shape instead of a cone shape.
When do I harvest artichokes? Well, the trick is to always go early. You'll get a lot more flesh, nice plump scales when you get them early in the season. Don't wait for them to really fluff right out. They'll be past it. But there is an important trick to getting more harvest, and that is don't cut them right underneath the bud. That heart that is inside that flower bud, actually the flavour and that texture continues down into the top of the stem. So I always harvest with a nice long stem and I cook that as well. And that way you'll get even more artichoke for your effort. Yum.
I'm on Wurundjeri country in Wesburn in the Yarra Valley, northeast of Melbourne. I'm visiting a grassroots community hub whose aim is to bring people together to grow food, reduce waste and build a better world. I've been wanting to visit this place for years and I'm so excited to be here.
ECOS stands for Ecological and Social Sustainability, and we're a not-for-profit environment hub. We're the only one of its kind in the Yarra Ranges.
As in every good community, this place is successful because the labour is shared by many. But Chelsea McNabb has been one of the key people breathing life into this place for 14 years. What are some of the projects you've got going on here at ECOS?
We've got a lot going on. We've got the community garden and the biodynamic farm and the pottery studio and a bicycle upcycling hub and a chocolaterie and a circus dome and a co-farming area and our Indigenous reconciliation area, a native nursery, and we have festivals and events and a market weekly where it brings everybody together.
That's a big cross-section of people. Is that how it feels?
Everyone tends to be here for an environmental focus, so there's a common thread that binds us.
I want to meet some more of the awesome people who keep this place ticking along. To my mind, no eco-hub would be complete without somewhere to raise the next generation. The nursery here is the domain of Peter, the local propagation expert.
I would like to promote more local natives for people and, you know, make them realise that they're worth planting in their gardens. All these plants are self-serve plants for the public. It's completely not-for-profit. And the money we generate from selling these goes into the community garden.
So you've got a real mix of native plants here, but there's a plan to it.
There is, and the 6-inch pots, quite a lot of them are varieties of various natives, and not all from Victoria, but most are. And the tubes here are all locally sourced seeds. They mainly go to revegetation areas.
How important is it for people to be able to access native plants like this at a reasonable price?
Well, for the local public that have got, you know, domestic gardens and things like that, a lot, you know, just can't afford to go to a commercial nursery. And as far as I'm concerned, the more plants, even if they're not local natives, if they're in the ground, then that's a good thing.
See you, Pete.
See ya.
My next stop is with Bjorn, a compost expert who's been tasked with breaking down an unexpectedly tricky problem for a neighbour. Bjorn, I can smell the aroma coming out of this bucket. What's in here?
So this is actually a mix of different botanicals, and this is from Four Pillars, a local gin distillery. And in the mix, there's star anise, cardamom, juniper berries, rosemary, lavender. And it's been such a challenge to compost because we misunderstood the material that we were working with at the start. We treated it as a green material. And through consultation with some experts, we realized that we had to treat it as a brown material. So we are amending the mix right now so to ensure that it heats up, because we're making a hot aerobic compost. And we want it to heat up so that all the shells and the hard surfaces of the coriander seeds and the cardamom can break down well. And this will then increase the fungal and microbe population in the compost.
So what's your intended outcome for this compost?
We can actually put back into the community garden and grow food for the local community, but also then to grow the botanicals that we can then supply back to Four Pillars. In essence, we're trying to close that waste loop cycle within the Yarra Ranges itself.
Now I'm off to meet Tobias. He's showing me Silvertine Farm, a biodynamic market garden that works closely with the Ecos team.
We grow as such the whole range from carrot, onion, potatoes, cabbage, lettuces. But we also have a few special crop for each season. It's now the celeriac. Another one is kohlrabi, which we have grown here in the tunnel. And then the third one is a salad. It's so-called corn salad, which is a really nice, very nutritious salad and can easily grow in the winter, even with the frosts.
What do you get out of producing vegetables for people?
Yeah, I have done it now for 43 years. I'm in this market garden business. And yeah, I must say, I never had a day where I thought, don't want to go there again.
Even when it's raining and freezing cold?
Even then, yes, it's wonderful to see the things growing, and of course also tasting it at the end of the day.
I'm almost out of time, but I want to make one last stop at another food growing area, the Crops for Community Garden, where a group of volunteers are just arriving for their weekly working bee, and I can't wait to meet them.
Look at that. Go again, show Mum for another one, yeah?
Hi, Kaylee. How you going? You doing a bit of weeding? How long have you been volunteering?
6 years.
Wow. What do you like about it?
Oh, I love it.
Do you just enjoy being outside?
Yes. It's a great place to work.
I know.
Volunteers really make the world turn. How does the community garden rely on the skills of the All Abilities group?
In every way, they come with such enthusiasm and joy and meet from different organisations here, and it's really, it brings a great vibe to Ecos.
Beautiful. So Josh and I are sort of in charge of the compost here, where we get all the food scraps that eventually break down, and we move it over when it's ready to be used for soil and planting a lot of the veggies here, yeah. I think this one's sort of gardening, or that one's gardening as well. There's also, for the actual compost, there's earth. So it's like you're sprinkling the earth into the ground.
And so you'll fill that right up, yeah? And then let it sit. Yep. And then where does it go? To the garden. And it builds soil. How often do you come to the garden?
Every Tuesdays.
Is it a good team?
the cool team. 8 team.
You feel like the A team.
Yes.
Are you always happy to see them?
Yeah.
People living with different abilities often are not acknowledged for what they can do, and these people are growing food for food relief, so they get so much pride and joy out of what they're producing. They know what they're doing and they're good at it.
What do you like about being in the garden?
I get really dirty and feel the mud on me.
Do you like to be outside in the weather?
Yep, for sure.
Have you got a favourite tool that you'll...
Rake. That's my favourite tool.
It's a friendly, warm place, a place where people can come and learn from each other, to try something out that's new and to get to know the community and have a connection. Places to connect might happen in sports or other places, but if you're not into sports, this sort of offers an area to connect in another way, and I think that's really important. And it gives back, you know, more than, you know, the individual. So as a collective, it raises each other up, I think, you know, by offering the support of the many in the one small place.
There are a few garden pests that loom as large in the mind of gardeners as rose aphids. These pale brown or green sap-sucking insects love to feast on new tender growth of roses, and they appear out of nowhere and quickly breed like rabbits. For me, if your rose gets aphids, it's really important to look at the bigger picture. Firstly, understand that aphids will never kill your rose. They have a short generation time and their numbers can build up really quickly in the warmer weather. While a few aphids can be tolerated, large numbers can cause rosebuds to be deformed, a loss of flowers or even foliage. They might stunt your rose, but they'll never kill it. Roses which are grown in the right position and fed and watered appropriately are more likely to be happy and healthy and less likely to get aphids. Aphids love soft, sappy growth, so if you overfeed or overwater your roses, you're making them vulnerable. Similarly, roses hate shade and root competition, so the best way to control rose aphids is to do nothing, except encourage natural biological control. These natural predators won't sniff out aphids until you get a critical mass of them, so sometimes you have to hold your nerve because it can take 10 to 14 days before the good guys appear. To encourage the cavalry to appear, which in this case are beneficial bugs like ladybirds, lacewings, hoverflies and parasitic wasps, you need to plant flowers nearby. Now these beneficials all have tiny mouths, so you need tiny flowers, and they love daisies or umbels like parsley, or also alyssum, so make sure that you've got it planted near your roses. Avoid sprays, as these kill both these predators and their larvae. Let me assure you that just because your roses have a few aphids, it doesn't mean you're a bad gardener. If you can't bear to do nothing, simply squirt them off with a jet of water. Now, the reality is, within a few days, you'll have another crop of aphids, but you're just waiting for the beneficials to arrive. Some people like to squash aphids, but I don't like people doing that because invariably you end up squashing ladybird eggs and parasitised aphids. Instead, sit back, relax, and wait for the cavalry.
Growing staples is essential, but what about those magic ingredients that take your dinner up a notch and leave you wanting more? Those foods that you want, you really, really want. Well, Jerry's here to show every boy and every girl how to spice up your life.
Life would be really grey without curry. And to make a really good curry, the key ingredients are coriander, cardamom seed, cinnamon, chilli, turmeric and cumin. My granddad learnt how to make curry when he served in India during World War I. And these were some of his favourite ingredients. Firstly, there's coriander. In my subtropical garden, Coriander goes to seed so quickly, you need to sow it in the cool seasons, and that way they grow more slowly. They'll reach about shoulder height. In spring, you can harvest loads of seed to make the spice, and along the way, you can enjoy some of the leaves. Save some seed to sow again next year. Like coriander, cumin is sown in autumn. But I have an alternative. This is Vietnamese paddy herb, and despite the name, it grows all the way across Southeast Asia and into Queensland. So this is a native herb, and it has the closest aroma to cumin of any plant I've ever grown. Plus, it grows all year round, and you add it fresh to the curry just as you're about to serve it. Cardamom. Now, this is a relative of the ginger family, and I've grown it as far south as Sydney. It's fine here in Brisbane, but it's much happier in far north Queensland. It produces funny little flowers at the base, and that's where you harvest the pods. It's a lovely little plant, pretty easy to grow. I break up the seed using a mortar and pestle. Then I grind down the seeds to a fine powder. I also grow my own cinnamon. Cinnamon can grow into a large evergreen tree, but pruning can maintain it at any size. Now, you can use these leaves to make a really lovely tea, but to make the spice, what I look for are pencil-thick pieces of bark like this, and I just use a potato peeler, and you just scrape a little bit of this bark away like that. And this then goes into the oven on the lowest setting for 10 minutes. That dries it out. What you end up with looks a bit like this. And then you can blitz it and turn it into the spice. And that's how you make your cinnamon spice. In Brisbane's subtropical climate, autumn is a good time for planting chilli. And now to heat. Chilies add the heat that's necessary to every curry. This sexy little chili is Count Dracula. Apart from being ornamental, it's quite a hot variety. I like to go for this one. This is Bishop's Crown. It's a mild to medium heat, and that's the one I like to grow because I like the warmth but not overpowering heat in my curries. You can also use the leaves of chili to add a pepper-like spice, but you're liberated with these because this is your curry. You choose a chili of your heat. There is a Scoville heat index for chilies, which goes from 0 for capsicum to the other extreme, 1.25 million for Carolina Reaper. That's weapons-grade chili. So the choice is definitely yours. Turmeric is another favourite in my garden. It's easy to grow all the way down the east coast of Australia. Now, turmeric is really important for its earthy flavour. This is shop-bought, which is OK. This is homegrown. Now, if you look at it, it's a little bit coarser, but the aroma is incomparable. Now, this turmeric is an exotic species. If you want to go local, you can grow native turmeric. In my experience, there's very little difference between the two spices. The spice comes from the rhizome, which is harvested in autumn or winter. Then you wash, slice thinly, and bake them in the oven at the lowest setting until they're really dry. And like cinnamon, you blitz it into spice. This adds the Aussie authenticity, so go native. Now, if you don't have a large garden, all of these plants can be grown in containers. I'd recommend a 40-centimetre diameter plastic pot. The ideal medium for growing them in is a mixture of equal parts of garden soil, sand and premium grade potting mix. Now, this material will be water retentive and freely draining, and it has a wonderful particle mix which will suit all types of plants. In terms of feeding, well, all I use is poultry manure. That's your standard complete fertiliser. And as a top-up, a bit of a fillip, give them some seaweed solution. The one thing I can't emphasise enough is the huge difference between homegrown curry spices and shop-bought. And if you are looking for the ultimate Indian curry, look no further than eggplant. Brinjal curry has to be the supreme Indian curry. And there's no prize for guessing what I'm having tonight for dinner. I'm so hungry.
Still to come on Gardening Australia, Hannah visits some precious Tasmanians. Josh shows us some stunning Banksias. And we learn more about this country's original food culture. Native orchids are some of the most delicate, intricate and beautiful plants. And when I see something beautiful in nature, I can't help myself. I just want to take a photo and share it. Hannah's here with a story about how we can do that in a responsible way to protect the beauty for generations to come.
These are Tasmania's native orchids, and it's easy to see why they inspire such curiosity and awe around the world. There are 1,300 different species of native Australian orchids, with Tasmania home to about 216 of these beauties. And someone who has definitely fallen under their spell is the Royal Tasmanian Botanical Gardens' Dr. Magali Wright.
One of the things I do is lead the Tasmanian Orchid Conservation and Research Program that's hosted here at the Royal Tasmanian Botanical Gardens. We are looking to conserve the orchid flora of Tasmania in the seed bank here at the Tasmanian Seed Conservation Centre. And because orchids need their fungi to grow, it needs quite specialised skills to be able to conserve the seed, because we also have to conserve the mycorrhizal fungi. We do quite a lot of other things as well. We're looking to grow these species for seed orchards, but also to grow them to put them back in native habitat as well, to help downlist them or improve their conservation status.
So what's so special about orchid seed?
Orchid seed is dust-like. It's really tiny. It doesn't have an endosperm or food reserves that most other seeds have to have the energy to germinate. Instead, it's colonised by mycorrhizal fungi, and that's why we use mycorrhizal fungi when we're growing orchids for conservation.
So tell me more about that relationship between the fungi and the seed.
Well, we take fungi from the underground parts of orchids and we cultivate it on special media. It's quite an underwhelming thing. It's like a little mould on a Petri dish, and we use this fungi when we're germinating orchid seed under laboratory conditions. In the wild, orchid seed would fall where it falls, and the right mycorrhizal fungi has to be there for them to germinate. And we're just trying to replicate that to help us grow them. So this is our living collection.
Ooh.
A number of them. We actually have more plants growing here in the Botanic Gardens than are left in the wild.
Far out, wow.
So it's really special. We grow over 10 nationally listed critically endangered species.
And how long has it taken you to bring all these plants together?
This has been a long process. This is about 10 years of work by many people. We've had a really dedicated group of volunteers that have helped us.
Are there any orchids you're particularly excited by?
Well, very excited about being able to grow leek orchids. So this is the golfer's leek orchid. It's a critically endangered species from the Tasmanian Midlands. And leek orchids are really difficult to grow. They're mycorrhizal fungi. It's really hard to find a good one. They don't germinate high percentages. So we're right in the peak flowering for the sag spider orchid, Caladinia sagicola. This is another critically endangered orchid that's found in one location near Hobart.
It's so pretty to see it flowering in a bunch, like a group of them. It's quite striking.
You wouldn't ever see them like this, this close. They grow amongst sags, which is Lomandra longifolia. So you would find them dotted around a sedgy woodland.
I love this pop of colour here.
Yeah, so this is the wax lip orchid, or Glossodia major. It's quite a common species, so it's one you'd see out and about. We practiced our propagation techniques on some common species when we first got started, and yeah, this one always brings a smile.
Magali, when I look at this one, I'm not sure if it's in flower or not.
It's actually in full flower and some of it is finishing already. It's a green hood, and you can see the flowers here. That's that little hood over the top and the labellum or lip just down in there.
And the closer you get, the more sculptural you can see it actually is. It's absolutely beautiful. What do you think are some of the bigger threats to orchids in the wild?
Well, some of the historic threats are really land clearance, but then there's also, particularly for grassland species, there is habitat degradation. So a lot of these grassland remnants are becoming smaller and smaller and are being invaded by pasture grasses. They're not being burnt often enough, they're being burnt too often, not being grazed often enough, or being grazed too much. So grasslands are quite dynamic systems and they will lose their species if they're not managed properly.
Why is it important to conserve native orchids?
Well, if you think of a number of our endangered orchids, they're known from a single location. So if something happens at that location, we're looking at global extinction of these species, particularly for the Tasmanian endemics, because if we lose them here, we've lost them from the whole world.
The attraction of orchids means many populations in the wild are in danger of being loved to death by keen photographers. So Magali, we've placed an orchid in here in this demonstration bed and we're pretending we're in the wild. What are some of the important things people should consider when they want to photograph responsibly?
Thinking about how close you're getting to the orchid. So one of the things is not creating disturbance directly around the plants. If you're on a path, maybe stay on the path. You can pick your equipment with a longer lens and a tripod so you can stand back from the plant to take a photo. One of the things that we're really trying to talk to people about, especially for sensitive sites and threatened orchids, is do you actually need to go there and take that picture? If you start to imagine that, you know, you get a lot of interested people coming to one place, you could actually create a ring of inhospitable soil around the orchid where the fungi isn't happy.
Because that soil is getting really compacted.
Yeah, it is about the compaction.
Magali, what's the alternative? If we can't go and see orchids in the wild, where can we see them?
Well, we try and have displays here every year of our living collection, so making opportunities for photographers to come and take pictures of threatened orchids without wind, with more consistent lighting, and, you know, coming to learn about orchid conservation while you're doing it.
Magali is busily dedicating her life and work to conserving and reintroducing Tasmania's beautiful native orchids back into the wild. And with a bit of care and respect on our part, we can ensure that this continues well into the future.
Resilient, unique, and a great addition to any garden. I'm talking about Josh Byrne, and he's here to show us some stunning West Australian Banksias.
They're striking, aren't they? Yes, Banksia flowers are a drawcard, but the diversity of colour and shape of the flowers, the woody fruit, the texture of the foliage, and the various forms among the 170 or so species are just as fascinating. Banksias occurred naturally in every state and territory in Australia, with the greatest diversity in the southwest of Western Australia. And if you're ever in the mood for a visual feast of Banksias, well, you'll find most of the WA species here at Kings Park in Perth. Let's start with two cracking ground cover types. Banksia petiolaris, from the coastal regions of southwest WA, is a dense, prostrate shrub that will spread to around 4 square metres. The flower spikes form from spring right through to winter, producing yellow flowers. The vertical foliage is also a great feature. Banksia blecknifolia has large pink to reddy brown flowers, but it's the serrated foliage that's really eye-catching. Plus the hairy, burnt orange new leaf growth that contrasts beautifully against the mature green leaves. Both of these species are readily available from native nurseries, and like most WA Banksias, they need good drainage and plenty of sun. And because they've evolved in infertile soils with low levels of phosphorus, it's important to only feed them with a fertiliser that's been formulated for native plants. Banksia undata is an upright shrub to around 3 metres tall, with prolific urchin-like yellow flowers. It was formerly known as Dryandra praemorsa until it was reclassified into the Banksia genus around 2007. It's endemic to southwest WA, where it grows in open jarrah forest. It's widely cultivated and relatively easy to grow. One of the remarkable things about the life cycle of Banksias is their relationship with fire. Most need the heat from fire to open up their woody fruit to release their seed, and some need the chemicals found in smoke to germinate. Some Banksias develop lignotubers at the base so they can regenerate after fire, and others produce a thick, corky bark to protect the living tissue underneath. This Banksia menziesii has both traits. Banksia ilicifolia grows up to 10 metres high and will re-sprout after fire. The inflorescence, or cluster of flowers, is initially yellowy green, but turns pink as it opens up and matures, a signal to birds that the flowers are open and nectar is available. It's suited to dry summer climates, needs good drainage and full sun. A plant that offers up so much presence, even in the harshest of conditions, is an asset in any garden. What I've shown you today is just a tiny snapshot of this distinctive genus. If you haven't indulged yourself yet, well, speak to your local native plant supplier to find out which species of Banksia is best suited to your part of the country.
These etiolated or leggy succulents are deformed because they haven't been given enough light, so they're reaching for sunlight. You can fix this by giving them more direct sun exposure, but it's not going to fix the legginess. To do this, we're going to need to chop and prop. To start, snip off the crown. Then remove the lower leaves on the stem. Then simply insert that into a pot filled with cacti and succulent potting mix. If you have a really long stem, you can cut that up into sections, then simply lay it on top of the potting mix and the pups will form. Make sure your succulents receive enough light. Now they can grow to their full potential. Legginess, no more.
For First Nations people, plants have been a source of food that has sustained them for tens of thousands of years. There are people working everywhere to strengthen the ties between country, culture and food. In our next story, we meet one of them.
Yarran or Bribie Island, to me, is peace and tranquility, and just my soul, my spirit is settled, and it means the world to me to know that my ancestors have been coming here for thousands and thousands of years, and I'm following their footsteps on this beautiful country. It's just a wonderful feeling how special this place is. My name is Bruce Phillips. Gulai is my traditional name. It is actually the white cypress tree. This is an old white cypress tree right here that's come down. I'm a Butchulla and Gubbi Gubbi man, and I come from Butchulla Gubbi Gubbi country. My grandmother, she comes from Butchulla country, a place called Gurry. I love to walk out in the bush, on the beach, on my own a lot when I'm collecting all the bush tucker for the presentations and tastings that I do. I first thought of Murray tucker probably 25 years ago now. I just had these big dreams of educating people about bush tucker and wanting to just make sure our young ones and just people in general learn more about what First Nations people have thrived on for thousands and thousands of years. I just want to show you a very, very simple dish that you can make at home on your own, utilising all the bush tucker that's around you. We've got the sea purslane. To me, it tastes a bit like salty beans, salty green beans. Here we've got the rye berries, and right next door we've got our blue flax lily, the Dianella. It's a beautiful sweet fruit, and it's got a little crunchy seed on the inside and tastes exactly like macadamia nuts. Right next door to him, we call this one Bidgel in my language, in Butchulla language. Comes from that pig face plant. Squeeze them out and it's got that beautiful fruit on the inside. So when they're darker like this, I think they take on more of a strawberry flavour. When they're a little bit wider, I think they have more of a kiwi fruit flavour. And when they're a little underripe, I think green apple. So here we've got the finger lime. Here's another salty veggie, sea blight. We've got something really, really special here, and this one is our samphire. We've got all these beautiful bush tucker fruits and veggies to go into the dish. My ancestors, to me, they mean guidance. And as I was part of the stolen generation, and I missed out on a lot of the education when I was younger. My mother only just turned 18. She was sick, she was single, she was black. I was taken off her for those reasons. She was told to stay away from me. Both of my biological aunties tried to adopt me and foster me, and the Department of Family Service officers, they just said, no, you cannot foster him, cannot have anything to do with him, kin cannot foster kin. And it was just as simple as that. They were just shut down. And one of those aunties went on to foster 60 children. They allowed her to do that, and apparently there was Aboriginal children that she fostered as well. But because I was a blood relation of hers, they wouldn't allow it. Just cruel. I was put into a home. Luckily, I wasn't there for long. I was only a little baby, and then my foster mum picked me up when I was about one-ish. It was a very, very good childhood. My foster family are very, very supportive of what I do. My biological family, they're very supportive, and both sides are just proud as, and both claim me. I feel very blessed that I do have two families, and two families that do love and care for me. I was interested in film and TV and wanted to be an actor, and ended up working professionally, more so in theatre. The theatre world, the acting world, gave me the confidence and the ability to ad-lib. There wasn't enough jobs, there wasn't enough work, and had to bring in some money, and so yeah, went and just got a regular job, and then I did go to Caboolture TAFE, not far from here. The horticultural section's no longer there, but they gave me the tools that I needed to be able to go out and carry on my research and learn more and more about bush tucker from mob, from my own family, from people I just yarn with. And then 3 years ago, I decided to go full-time with the business. Now I'm doing my dream job. I work for myself. Most of the time I'm just in a pair of footy shorts, just walking around the bush, just collecting bush tucker. What I do is a presentation and tasting for the gundu or the jarjum, so that means children.
Would you like to share some bush tucker with me?
I don't want the children to learn about what comes out of a jar or open a packet. They do enough of that at home.
And what was your favourite?
Mine was the plum.
We'll do little cooking exercises or doing what our ancestors used to do. I just want them to taste the flavours of the bush.
Isn't that wonderful? Yummy.
And I'm able to educate young ones, like especially in the kindies, the relationships that are intertwined within Mother Nature. When I go out harvesting bush tucker, if I'm on someone else's country, it's protocol for me to go and see them and ask for those elders for their permission and see if I can go and get that tucker. They ask for permission from the animals and the birds and the insects and the plant itself, the plant that I'm harvesting from. Aboriginal people make the most out of all plant parts. Nothing goes to waste. So I've got the wombat berries, and it's a really useful plant. So the orange pod tastes like green beans. The white flesh around the black seeds, it tastes like fresh coconut. The leaf tips and the tendrils, which taste a lot like green beans and asparagus. And also there's tubers under the ground. Little tubers taste exactly like water chestnuts, so eat them raw or cooked too. And the long vines can be used for weaving as well. So every part of the plant is useful. Pig-faced leaves, the bijil and Swiss brown. This is just the macadamia oil. The rye berries. Our finger limes in. Our samphire. And that's it. It's done. Sea veggie stir fry. With the knowledge that I have, I'm scratching the surface of what's out there. We've got like nearly 6,500, 7,000 different species of edible food plants in this country. Now, out of that 7,000, I think I've tasted probably only under 100. Just a fraction of what's out there. I'll probably need 2 lifetimes to learn it all.
I don't know about you, but I'm ready and raring to go. Here's your jobs for the weekend. Bit of rain never hurt anyone. Get into it. Cool temperate gardeners find a sunny, protected spot and sow some aniseed, Pimpinella anisum. Growing to 1 metre, the foliage and seed of this annual are both edible, and the flowers beckon to beneficial insects. It's hedge haircut time, but before you hack, take a step back. Areas of the hedge that receive the greatest amount of sunlight, like the top, should be pruned harder than those in shadier sections. Roses are starting to put on fresh new growth, which is a beacon for sap-sucking insects like aphids. To keep them at bay, avoid over-fertilising, mulch beds and water well. Got a hot spot or bare pot in your warm temperate garden? Grow a geranium or 2. Tough plants with gorgeous flowers and a range of scents including rose, lime and even chopped mint. Blooming now is the native bulbine lily, Bulbine bulbosa. Their bright yellow flower heads providing stunning pops of colour. Plant in drifts at your place in full sun to part shade. Find a corner of the veggie patch and throw in a rock melon seed or 2. These small vines are happy in almost any garden, and their sweet, fleshy fruits will rock your summer fruit salad. In the subtropics, it's the perfect time of year to harvest the vibrant purple lily-pilly berries from Syzygium species. a tart, tangy addition to cordials and conserves. With prolific purple flowers, the native wisteria, Calleria megasperma, is a showy, fast-growing, reliable climber, indigenous to rainforest areas of New South Wales and southeast Queensland. Have a grow at Shiso, Perilla frutescens. A vigorous annual herb, this bushy plant is great in full sun to part shade and is prized for its delicate basil, mint and fennel scent and flavour. If you've struggled to grow spuds in the tropics, whack in a country potato, Plectranthus rotundifolius. This vigorous tropical shrub produces delicious tubers which can be baked, fried or roasted. With the weather warming, turf is growing, so make sure you stay on top of your garden edging and stop the growth of grasses into your garden beds before it takes over. It's a great weekend to treat your cropping vegetables like tomatoes and sweet corn to a feed. Aged compost and manures, pelletised or liquid fertilisers are perfect. Arid gardeners, whether you prefer sweets or savouries, cordial or cocktails, you cannot go past a homegrown lime or two. Plant a Tahitian lime for tart, juicy fruits and a macret for its foliage and zest. Drought-hardy, good-looking and great in pots, native lemongrass, Cymbopogon ambiguus, is a magic plant for the garden and can be used in cooking and teas. Hunt one out this weekend. Romantic, rambling and really beautiful, the Banksia rose, Rosa Banksia lutea, is perfect for a sunny spot. Free of thorns, this quick-growing climber will reward you with masses of delicate yellow flowers. With so much happening in our gardens at the moment, it's easy to lose track of time. So if you've missed anything from tonight's episode, head over to ABC iView to catch up. Time to put a full stop on another episode, but we've got plenty lined up for next week. Here's what's in store.
I have a seedy garden, and I also believe that weeds should be kept firmly in their place. I'll show you how to keep discipline so that your garden doesn't become a nuisance in the neighbourhood.
Our new guest presenter, Jack Semler, shows us how to plan a garden. And we meet an artist and photographer showcasing nature's rich tapestry.